Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I'm going to be going over Covenants, Soulbinds, and Conduits in that order, with the goal of just giving all the information with the least amount of bias that I can. While there's a lot of content out on this, sometimes it's extremely biased one way or the other, or incomplete even, to where you leave yourself wondering a little bit more about one of these systems and exactly how it's going to work for you. So again, we'll go through Covenants, Soulbinds, and then Conduits, and kind of what each of those choices mean as a player. So your first choice is going to be your Covenant. Largely, outside of min-maxing, I suppose, this will just be a choice based on your preferential feel. I'll get into a couple changes or exceptions to that rule based on when I talk about Soulbinds, but this is going to be mostly just based on personal preference, because the abilities are class-based. The throughput abilities are class-based, so you're going to be getting them, for example, like for a rep paladin in one, it might be a hammer. For another single target hammer, it could be a AoE judgment like it is for Kyrian. So there's different things based on which one you pick. So if you're min-maxing and one of them is just way outperforming another, then yeah, you might want to choose that one. But largely, this is just a player preference choice. It's almost like a class choice, because what it's giving you is a class ability. As we get into the Soulbinds, you'll see that the Soulbinds are really quite similar overall. And so what you're choosing, so you don't really choose it for the Soulbind necessarily. Again, min-maxing wise, there could be a Soulbind that's just the best one for your particular class. So the Covenant Soulbind combination is the best one for your class. That's always going to be the case. There's always going to be a best, there's always going to be a worst in any situation in life or World of Warcraft. So that is the case, but largely, quality of life, how you enjoy playing the game, you choose Kyrian, Night Fae, Necro, or Venthyr. And they also will have an ability that's not class-based, it'll be utility-based. Venthyr has like a door that's like a miniature, or it's like some sort of a blink almost. Kyrian has a steward that gives you like lock rocks that also remove bleed, curse, poison, etc. Kind of like a dwarf racial ability. So if you were a dwarf, you would actually have like two of those to use, because I doubt they share the same cooldown. That would be silly if they did, at least. So that you'll have these utility racials as well, and that's just, again, based on your feel. So if you really like one of the utilities over the other, then just choose that utility, and try not to be disappointed when one of the utilities is better than the other on a fight, because it's the same as class. Like the example I sometimes use when I'm talking about this is like, as a rep paladin, sometimes I would love to have death grip, but I don't just get to choose to have death grip. I already chose that I'm a paladin. And your Covenant choice is very similar to your class choice, basically. And that's just the way you're going to have to view it in order to accept it. And so Covenant choice is very similar to class choice. Once you pick your class, you can't just have abilities from another class. And luckily, in this case, it's only one throughput ability and one utility ability. It's not multiple abilities that you're missing out. It is multiple because it's two, but it's not multiples of abilities. So that's your choice of Covenant right there. I'm personally playing Kyrian for my own reasons. I think it's very simple as far as damage, healer, tank. I play a paladin, damage, healer, tank. Very simple, very straightforward, and that's why I'm doing it. Obviously, we'll get into the Soulbinds, and Kyrian might not be for a lot of people because of what I'm about to talk about now. So let's get into the Soulbinds. For each Covenant, you'll have 3 possible Soulbinds. Now, I said these don't matter that much because they really don't matter that much. I'll probably keep saying this just to keep stressing it, but yes, min-maxing wise, there will be one that's fairly, that's somewhat better than another one. Pelagos is the one I'm on now on the screen, and he has two traits that will give some sort of throughput, and 3 potency conduits on the way there. We'll talk more about conduits next, but potency conduits are basically throughput conduits. Not that, like especially like endurance can't do some kind of throughput as well, but potency conduits are like straight throughput conduits, even if they are for tanks and healing as well. So he has 3 of those, plus 2 other throughputs. So for damage, this is probably the best one in Kyrian. And then Forge Light Prime could be really good, depending on how good his final one, Bronze Call to Action, is. That would just depend on that. But he also has 3 potencies. So let's get into that specific thing, the potency conduits. So just pure throughput. 11 out of the 12 Soulbinds have 3 potency conduits. So the only difference between them will be the traits. So like I said, min-maxing the traits will matter. As of right now, the traits are not super strong. If they keep that and make them weak, then it really won't matter at all. So you will just want to choose, like let's say you're damage and all you care about is damage. You're probably just going to choose 3 DPS throughput conduits on your Soulbind, and you can do that for 11 out of the 12. The one exception is Clea here in the Kyrian, and so if you play a mage, warlock, hunter, rogue, the pure DPS classes, Kyrian might not be for you, because you do have one Soulbind where you can't just do pure damage, but maybe you have some other traits that you actually really like, or there's a fight that you like to play defensive, or maybe you like to play more defensive on a Mythic Plus dungeon because your damage is good enough on its own. Then you could still run Clea in that way. Yeah, because Clea is not a bad Soulbind as far as the abilities and stuff. It just doesn't have those three potency conduits that all of the other Soulbinds have an option for, a path for. Every single one except for Clea. Also, so endurance is kind of like a tanky type thing. They also have some healing type things in there as well. But it's just kind of what you think. Potency is potent, endurance is enduring, and finesse is kind of like finesse. So they all make sense. Endurance, if you wanted to go full endurance, full tank mode, not damage mode, there's 4 total that have 3 endurance. 4 Soulbinds have 3 endurance, and none of those are actually in the Night Fae. So if you wanted to go full endurance, you wouldn't go Night Fae. If you wanted to go full damage, you probably wouldn't currently go Kyrian. If you wanted to go 3 finesse, there's only one choice there, and that is Anani in Necrolord. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Anami. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but he's like the middle one if you go to the Necrolord. So this is Clea, but it would be the middle one in the Necrolord's Covenant. It would be Anini or whatever. And he has a path that has 3 finesse. So that's what your Soulbinds really are. Your Soulbinds are choosing your conduits, your conduit path. The traits matter for min-maxing, no doubt about it, but I'm assuming they are generally going to be balanced. And if not, they'll be easy to balance because they're not class-based at all. They're just traits or whatever. So hopefully that can be worked on fairly easily. If not, that could be an issue. No doubt about it. If there's one trait that's just best for all DPS and everyone picks that Covenant because of it, then that's an issue, and they need to get that resolved before the expansion actually comes out, of course. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the conduits, and this is the most important thing, because this is where most of your, I guess the phrase is borrowed power is going to come from. These are going to rank up as you go. So not only are they strong initially, they're actually going to get stronger as we go. Again, I have a path of 3 potency conduits, so I'm doing complete damage right here. I have 2 traits that also do damage, so this is my path with those conduits. The conduits currently will not be destroyed, but you can only respec them once a week. And so this is going to be maybe the longest part I talk about, because this is where some of the issues could arise, and I'll tie this all together within this explanation here. So for me, it's fairly easy, because I mostly play rat, but if I do have to tank, I could do something like this. I could go Retribution, single target / just general purpose right here, take this path right here. For rat multi-target, let's say this ability is good for multi-target for some reason, I take the 3 potency route in this guy, and then the ability at the end, and I choose that for multi-target, and I put multi-target faceted conduits in. Now, the good news is a lot of the conduits are not single target versus multi-target. So a lot of them are good in all situations, and they are spec based. So you're generally going to have about 5 choices per spec with 3 slots. So you almost have all the choices. So if you're willing to commit to one spec, you won't have any issues at all. So if you want to do single target, multi-target, and then another PvP or something like that, You could do all three of those on anything except for Kyrian, and and be completely fine with that. If you were only playing damage, if you're only playing tank, you could do the same thing. You could have one where it's damage tank, all defense tank, and like a middling tank or mix of each. So if you're committed to playing one spec, then you're completely fine. If you want to play all your specs, here's where you could get into a little bit of trouble. So let's pretend we're like in Venthyr or any of the other ones other than Kyrian, and all three of your Soulbinds have 3 potency conduits. So 3 straight throughput conduits. So what you could do is, you could do one, let's say you're a mage. You could go Fire Mage, Frost Mage, Arcane Mage. However, you wouldn't be able to delineate at all whether it's single target or multi-target. Now, for some of the specs, there might not actually be a delineation between those, because they might just be your baseline abilities, like Frostbolt. Like you're going to use, or Ice Lance or something for Frost, right? You're going to use that in any situation, at least sometimes, right? So it's useful in one. However, Frozen Orb, that's while you still probably use it in a single target anyways. It's going to be much better in multi-target, and you're definitely going to have it for that. So those are like the little intricacies of it that could cause an issue, because then you have to either commit to a spec, or you are going to need to change your conduits up. And right now, you can only do that once per week. They're allowing 1 respec of conduits per week. It's just a thing you're allowed to do. Basically, set your loadouts for the week. And I do think they will have to end up changing that. This is just opinion here, but I think that they will probably have to allow you to either shift them whenever you want, a limit that's more than 3, or more than 1, maybe up to 3 respecs per week, or just allow you to do it via currency. Some sort of way to keep doing it, because otherwise you're gonna really be pigeonholing people into one spec, much like Legion did at the beginning of it, but that was through Azerite. You're gonna be doing it this way because of the conduit choices. So we don't want to pigeonhole our warlocks, our mages, our hunters, our rogues into playing only one spec, or only 2 of the 3 if they can make it work that way, because the abilities are generic enough. But hopefully they can make those changes, because that's where the issue really lies. If there's no real issue with Covenants right now. People are really mad about this, at least a week or so ago, about the Covenant, and I want to be able to have all the Covenant abilities, and it's like, that's a class choice. Get over that. Soulbinds, that's not an issue. The abilities can be nerfed, made equal. What matters is your conduits. What matters is having the right pathing, having the right conduits for each fight. And so what's going to matter is being able to change out your conduits. That's what's going to matter at the end of the day, because that's where almost all the borrowed power is going to come from, is from your conduits as we rank them up. And people should be able to have the best ones. Even me, I'm not as super serious about it as some people are. That's why I'm not as angry as some people are. But for me, it would suck for me even if I had, the ones I have in now are, it's mostly single target type stuff. And however, let's say I already picked my spec for the week. I already have this in. I already picked I have like a healer spec or something, or a tank spec in Forge Light. So now my 3 potencies are taken in there. So now I'm on a multi-target fight. I didn't think we were going to get to in the raid, and I can't put my Divine Toll conduit in, because I already chose I already respec, let's say, for the week, because you do get 1 respec. So let's say I already respec for the week. I can now not put in my AoE conduit into this lineup that I have. So that would feel really bad, of course. And I think that they're going to have to find a way to get rid of that. Of course, the 1 respec, that also screws you up going between dungeons. Like with this lineup I have now, I would feel comfortable doing dungeons with this. The only way I would want to put the AoE ability one on is if Fortified Week or something like that. Even then, you can get away with it without it. It's not like a make or break thing. But if you were min-maxing, you would want that. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if the answer is multiple respecs. I don't know if it's infinite respecs based on a currency, or if it's just like Azerite essences where you just are in a rested area or in a city or whatever, and you can change your Azerite essences in your neck. because it works very similar to a library like that. So I don't know what the answer is there. That's what we need to focus on, though. Complaining about the covenants isn't going to accomplish anything. Let's just keep telling them, make sure you tune the class abilities in the covenants. Let's tune the class abilities to where the class abilities are, fairly equal. There's some are going to be better at AoE, some are going to be better at single target. That's understandable. Let's tune the class abilities where we can for the covenant choice. Soulbinds are pretty much fine. I laid out everything with the Soulbinds for you. Potency wise, if all you care about is potency, then Kyrian isn't for you. If you are in for more of a balanced approach, then Kyrian is for you. If you're into finesse, then you have one full finesse choice. If you're into endurance, you have 4 choices. So Soulbinds are pretty straightforward there. You have to make sure there's not one trait that's just like dominating everything, and that if so, that trait needs to be nerfed before the launch of the expansion, to where all the traits are fairly similar as far as what they do and the damage that they produce or the healing they produce or whatever, and make sure that happens. So Soulbinds aren't far off. Covenants are fine. Don't focus on those two. Let's focus on the Conduits and making sure that we can switch those when necessary, or at least more than once probably. I could probably make it work once myself, but it wouldn't necessarily be the best case scenario, right? So let's up the respecs, maybe up to 3. There's 3 Soulbinds, maybe 3 respecs per week. So let's up that, or make it just a library. I like the library choice personally because I'm not trying to think for myself. I'm trying to think for the 3 DPS classes out there that might want to play single target, multi-target, dungeon for 2 different specs at least, right? If not 3. So if they want to play at least 2 of their damage specs and they want to do it for multiple things, they're currently not going to be able to do that. You're only going to be able to do it for 3 things and then 1 respec each. So you have like 6 total options a week of different things you can do. Now 6 is still a lot, don't get me wrong. It's not like 6 is a small number, but that's not enough for some people who change their stuff like 4 times a day. And I don't think that we should necessarily limit that because there's really no point to it once it's already a library. You might as well have that just change. So let's focus on the important stuff here. That would be my goal to anybody watching this, is let's not complain about the covenants too much. It's not that big of a deal. The utility abilities are all, sometimes one utility ability is going to be way more useful than another. That's just the way it is. It's a class thing. It's like a class. The Soulbinds are fine. Let's focus on making sure the Conduits are interchangeable, and then all it's about is tuning. Does Blizzard mess up on tuning? Yes. But that's always the case. There's always going to be something undertuned or overtuned. They're always eventually going to have to fix it, and at least to some extent, and then something else is going to fall off. It's the way it's always been. So let's just focus on having them focus on that problem instead of trying to get them to completely rework Covenants as we come close to this expansion coming out. Because the Covenant system is completely fine. As someone who's now playing it, I see nothing wrong with the Covenant system. Let's make sure the Conduits are out, and let's just focus on balancing. Let's just tell them, work on tuning, work on balancing, work on tuning, work on balancing, and beat that point into the ground. And then if they fail on that, criticize them for that. So that's my takeaway from it. After playing with it, after looking at multiple classes on the calculator, the Wowhead calculator, shout out to them, looking at multiple classes, looking at all their abilities, looking at all their Conduits, that's the issue. Let's just focus on what's actually could go wrong. Right now you have like a max of 6 choices per week with the 1 respec. So if we had 3 respecs, that should be 18 choices per week. That's a lot more reasonable. I know we have someone in my guild suggested 3 respecs. I can't remember for sure who it was, but they suggested 3 respecs in a conversation we were having, and that would be 18 choices per week total. If you were like a pure DPS player. So let's focus on that. Let's get that done. Let's try to have fun with this expansion. If you're not in beta, don't trust necessarily that people are saying the Covenants suck. The Covenants are kind of fine, actually. People are having fun with their own little thing, whether they're a fox. I like my little owl dude that comes and gives me my files. People like their door for Venthyr. Let people just like what they like and pick their Covenants. That's my other takeaway. Focus on what's actually wrong and let people like what they like. those aren't very obtrusive points there. So please subscribe to the channel. I know this is a little bit long, but this is important to me. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.